dance with the light. Horror movies and fun they play. I want to go back there if just for a day. Chat about gory things that they watch. Zombie tales and vampires munch. Slasher thrills and a ghost find prey. I want to go back there if just for a day. DEADPIT's on and I gotta stay. Back to their voices, let my troubles sway. Where horror roams and creatures play. I want to go back there if just for a day. Creepy fears under full moon's cast. Rewind the scars from a bloody past. Redneck tales in December or May. DEADPIT wants to go back there if just for a day. Laughter echoes through the night. Fear and fun and Appalachian light. Voices curse and the banjos play. I just want to go back there just for a day. DEADPIT's on and I gotta stay. Back to their voices, let my troubles sway. Where whole shit roams and the toothless play. I want to go back there just for a day. Beneath the weeping willow lies a tale of woe and dread, of lovers' final moments in the crypt where they bled. No one leaves unshaken by the stories that are told. The keeper's crypt's a museum of horrors dark and cold. I tip my hat to the keeper of the crypt. He sure knew what he was doing with all that scary shit. His whispers in the moonlight send shivers down the spine, bringing darkened tales as old as ancient wine. As old as ancient wine.
Hello, creeps. It's the Crypt Keeper, and I'm a friend of DEADPIT.com.
Welcome, everybody. What an intro, boss. What an intro.
That's how you do it right there. That's
The
how you
Crypt
keep things
Keeper himself.
super creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like bringing the creepy with the country. And that band's way better than Nickelback, by the way. Jackson Jack.
It's funny because just about every AI band you could put out right now is better than Nickelback. You think you could put in there?
That's a real band, man. What are you talking
Basically,
about?
yeah.
What are you talking about? So welcome, everybody. Tonight is a very special night. I'm excited because we've been doing this show for a long time, Uncle Bill, and there's only a handful of things that we really haven't talked a whole lot about, and this is one of them. I went through our Patreon page, which cheap plug DEADPIT on patreon.com, and did a search. Tales from the Crypt. What do we do from Tales from the Crypt? We did a commentary from 1972 movie,
Right.
a few years ago, and a review of Bordello of Blood and Demon Night double feature back in 2007. Other than that, we have never talked about Tales from the Crypt in any form for any lengthy period of time, but that ends tonight.
Isn't that wild, though? I mean, as long as we've been doing the show, and like I've got every season of Tales from the Crypt. I'm assuming you probably do too, like the TV show, the movies, the original comic run, all of that. And we've never really done a full show, which is crazy to me. But I tell you, I don't know what you got planned, but tonight I got planned to do a whole lot of discussing about all of these things Tales from the Crypt related.
That's right. And we're going to tease you guys because 1 week from tonight, 10/10/24, People, old school Dead Pit fans are going to flip their shit. They're going to spatula and flip that pile when they hear who is coming to the show next week. People will be like, "What? Huh? Huh?" You probably won't know who it is. A lot of you, if you're not old school Dead Pit, but if you are, that's all I'm going to say.
Man,
you're going to be excited.
I'll put it to you this way.
I talked with him today again to confirm.
Okay. Well, I never thought in a million years this would happen. Never would have predicted this. Mm-hmm. So that's all I'll say.
Could it be Andrew Bernarski?
Yes. You got it.
You guessed it, man. So it's going to be a fun time tonight, and stay tuned throughout the night, because at some point during the show, we're going to talk about this person that's going to show up, said person, next week. And yeah, I think people will be excited. So with that being said, you want to do a little bit of a roll call, Uncle Bill, and who's here?
Let's see who we got.
Tales from the Crypt tonight.
So we have in the chat Sick Jim. Good to have Sick Jim in here. Matt Black, Adrian James, Dino the Machino.
What's up, Dino?
Dino Malenko. Saturn Video, Black Peter. Not my truth, the truth. Barry Williams from the Brady Bunch. That's nice to have.
Hey, Barry, how are you?
Emotionless Zombie. Kevin Smith, the film director. Card is in here.
The man that requested this show, by the way. And the Ballers and Shot Callers are getting a very special package here soon, Uncle Bill. We do that for patrons as well.
Yeah. Prince IK, his brother, Prince Tomater.
Prince Mater and Princess Tater and Prince Mater.
Justin Smith, the Spook House podcast. Nope, it's not Tony Moron.
No, we've interviewed Tony Moron before.
It is Victor Salva, though. That's who it is.
He's going to send Uncle Bill some more toys in the mail.
Fucking PP Dangler. Okay.
What a day.
Is it cause? I don't know. We'll have to find out. I can't even put one of these names up here, but it's killer. Oh.
We got some creative people.
Yeah.
On streams always. But yeah, we appreciate everybody coming by tonight. I did get my Vinegar Syndrome package in too, so maybe at some point during the night I can, depending on how we're doing with time, I can unbox it, baby. But I want to protect the tape because I collect the tape. I want to get I don't
like the new tape, man. I'm not a fan.
I want to have to find a hairdryer for Sarah and just make sure it comes right off and I don't damage it or anything. I watched videos on how you do that. Anyway,
I want to say this though before we get started, and you can probably talk about this too. Tales from the Crypt was a phenomenon when we were growing up, like the TV show. Now, the TV show is by an extension of the comic books, but like when we were growing up, it was like the thing to watch there for a period of time. And I remember that my grandmother would watch it with me. And at that time, I guess she had to be 60 some years old, at least. And she freaking loved Tales from the Crypt as well. But my grandfather would come in there, like when we were watching it, he'd stand in front of the TV for about 5 minutes and he'd go, "Turn this shit off."
That's a bunch of filth.
Yeah, it was something like that. And then like he'd leave and we'd turn it back on. But like it was huge. Like people watched it every week. It was awesome at that time.
It was. I mean, the Tales from the Crypt that, like you said, that we grew up with was the show. And the remarkable thing, if we go back to the origins of, where it came from, the books and everything, And there's documentary out there that I checked out to learn about it. And this is one of my favorite things about doing shows like this is, you know, when it comes to comics and stuff, I've never been huge into comic books or anything. I've always enjoyed the artwork. They're cool. You know, they're easy to read, right? It's half picture book, really, which is my favorite genre of books. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't really know a whole lot about Tales from the Crypt, the EC comic, and I knew a little bit. But when we do some shows like this, you know, watch some documentaries, check out some articles and everything, and I learned some interesting stuff about the comic book. And I think going back, and I don't know how detailed we can get in 2 hours talking about every aspect of Tales from the Crypt. But obviously, the most important aspect that led up to that show was these books.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, these books were not around very long. The very early days of comic books, I think it was Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein were the guys that's the driving forces behind Tales from the Crypt. And
Yeah. So like Max Gaines, there's an interesting story behind this whole thing too. And I was watching that documentary as well, which is great. Max Gaines, William Gaines' father, started the comic, but it wasn't the comic that like we know. It was called Educational Comics, EC Comics. And the funny thing about that is that it did horrible. Even back in the 40s and 50s, nobody wanted education. Like they didn't want to read. Like they were not interested in
like Bible stories and stuff too.
It was a lot of Bible stories and a lot of like, you know, just kind of what would you call it, like school related materials and things like that too.
Right. Who wants to buy that shit? Yeah.
Yeah, a combination that like really even at that period of time. Like
well, maybe the idea was to sell them to schools or something, possibly. I don't know.
So Max Gaines dies. He dies in like a freakish boating accident too, by the way, which is kind of bizarre in the fact that like, you know, how this comic book would come about. Apparently, like, he didn't think very highly of his son, William Gaines, who would go on to take over EC. He didn't want to take over EC Comics either. He had absolutely no interest in taking it over because it was a failure. They were in the hole like $100,000, which at that time, you think about the 40s into the 50s, like that's probably like $1 million some dollars now. And like, they're in the hole. He's taking it over. He doesn't have any interest in doing it. And so he's like, you know what? Like we suck as it is. Like, I'm just going to do the kind of comic books that I want. Like screw all this educational comic stuff.
Yeah. Who needs an education?
Yeah. We'll change the name to Entertaining Comics, which is what it became.
That's what it stood for.
And then like, I'll do the kind of crap that I wanted to, that I'm interested in, which turned out to be a couple other things before, you know, Tales from the Crypt and things like that. But turned out to be those kind of like horror comic books.
Yeah. The time frame of this too is very interesting, and it predates pretty much every horror anthology in print. I think that it was the 40s when these first came out. I mean, they were originally in these comic book numbers are all over the place too, because it's not like traditional, you know, comic book runs where you've got the Amazing Spider-Man #1 or whatever, right. You know, Action Comics. This went through what, 2 or 3 name changes before it got Tales from the Crypt. It was a crime. Yeah. I think it was Crime Patrol. And then like the Crypt Keeper debuted in Crime Patrol 16, which I'm willing to bet is probably worth about $30,000 at least. All these old comic books, and I was trying to look them up on, even in the awfulest condition, man, you're looking at $500-600. graded condition, $5,000 or
Yeah.
$6,000.
It's
But
funny
yeah.
to me though that it's called Crime Patrol because that sounds like something should have fucking Steve Gutenberg in it.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the name changed to Crypt of Terror for a couple of issues.
Yeah.
And then, Tales from the Crypt, the debut of Tales from the Crypt as a book was issue 20, I think. So
Yeah, I
that's
didn't
kind of
realize
confusing.
I didn't realize until we started doing research for the show that it actually wasn't called Tales from the Crypt at first. Like that wasn't the original name, and then it got changed. But those, flagship kind of titles, Tales from the Crypt, The Vault of Horror, and eventually The Haunt of Fear would become like the most popular ones. And Tales from the Crypt was the most popular of all of them. EC also did they were big into sci-fi for a while. It didn't do as well. They were big into like Two-Fisted Tales and things like that, which were they're like crime and like war stories and things like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so really interesting story though about how all of it came together. And like I said, a lot of this predates, like for instance, the Twilight Zone started in 58?
Oh yeah.
This was
We're talking
many years before the Twilight Zone. That was technically the first issue of Tales from the Crypt right there. The cover there.
Somebody can fact check me on this, but I think that those started in January of 1950. I think that's right. Like the what would become Tales from the Crypt and all that too.
Yeah, it's definitely 1950. Think of that. I mean, that's actually predating anything that even our parents could have, first run. So that was fucking, 74 years ago?
It's wild, man, because like I really didn't think about how old that was. But yeah, I mean, my dad wasn't even born when that fucking comic came out. And you think about like how crazy and gory those stories were. And we're talking about 1950 to 55. That was when like the Atomic Age movies were popular. It was just a completely different thing. And I honestly don't think that we would have like slasher movies and things like that, like without those kind of comics, because they influenced so many people that would go on to like make movies like Carpenter and Romero and like all those guys like were influenced by EC Comics.
Yeah, the Creep Show series directly. Yeah. I mean, Romero created it. Like that was, I think initially they were even going to do another, like before Creep Show became a thing, they were going to do a Tales from the Crypt movie with Stephen King and Romero. So, but it morphed into what Creep Show was. But yeah, I mean, just the time frame that this was done and the influence that it had. Because at this point in time, what did the kids have, like as far as the genre stuff goes? Stuff in the movie theater?
I mean, that's what I was trying to say. Like, I'm trying to figure that out. Like, nothing really like this. Nothing at all. Like, somebody said on here that it was groundbreaking. It really was truly like groundbreaking that somebody would do shit like this. I just hate kind of what happened. And like, of course.
That's what happens with everything though.
Yeah.
I mean, and like we were saying, there's not, during that initial run, that first run of books, which a lot of these were based on stories from other authors, and that's how they cranked them out so fast and did so many in that short period of time there. Because this series of books was around for like 5 years, I think.
Very short period of time
and banned, because I think they introduced the comic code, which similar to what they were doing with music there for a while. I don't know. Are they still doing that with music? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. The
parental advisory. I don't think they're doing it anymore. OCP Communications with a super chat.
Oh, I accidentally hit it.
I
hit it at the same time. You hit it. Go ahead.
Okay. Nice job with the show so far. It's nuts to me that Tales from the Crypt became a kids thing later on too, with cartoons and game shows. Yeah, that's really confusing, but we'll get to that. I appreciate the super chat, Mike. Hope you're having a good one, man. And dongs and honkers, dude, like, settle down. Settle down a little bit with some of
What?
these posts.
What is he doing?
He's burning the chat up with all kinds of shit.
Dongs and honkers is killing it.
Dongs and honkers, bulls.
So real quick though, I want to talk about like the actual comic books and how that transitioned into the show too. So like the premise of the comics was pretty simple, right? And they stumbled upon this premise really early on, which was good because it caught on really, really quick. Which was you had a different host for each one of the comics. Like the Crypt Keeper was the host for Tales from the Crypt. The Witch was the host for one of them. Fucking, and then there was another one I can't remember. But like there was a humor aspect to them as well, which was like the host's job, and also sometimes like in the comics to interject like humor into like the violence and gore. But almost every story had the same theme, which was some evil fucking person does something bad, and then at the end, like they get their comeuppance in some sort of like ironic twist
Right.
to the story. And that was like the majority of like all of the stories, to the point where I think that they ran out of ideas and had to get like Ray Bradbury to come in and like write. Like,
Well, I think they stole the Ray Bradbury story, and then he was like, "Hey, you guys!"
What was killer about that to me though, man, was that like they stole that story from him, and he just wrote him a letter and was like, "Hey, you owe me $50."
Pay up, like motherfucker.
2 stories for the site. It was for the, I think it was for the, maybe it was the horror one or the science fiction. I can't remember which. But they stole like 2 stories, and his response was, "You need to pay me $50." So that's how old we're talking here. But anyway, like I just thought that was a cool like kind of thing that they stumbled upon this formula that worked, and then by the time that came out, it was immediately successful too. Like there was no like it turned that company completely around almost like instantaneously, and then became, I think it became, what did they say? Besides Superman, like the biggest selling comic of that
At
time.
one time, it was the second biggest selling comic under Superman, which is pretty amazing considering. I mean, it's fucking Superman. What else was around then? I think Batman was around this time period. So, yeah, I mean, highly successful. There were copycat comics coming out around this time, and pretty much it sounded like it was out of nowhere, you know. And William, hey, another super chat, appreciate it, dude. Part of the comics' downfall was their lack of respect on copyright laws on the short stories adapted, leading to lawsuits.
Well, the funny thing about that is they actually co-opted Bradbury to come in, and they paid him to use his stories from that point on. They just like took him in and he wrote, or he didn't write, but like they just used some of the stories that he wrote in the comics and paid him for it after that.
Yeah.
But we're definitely getting to the point where soon we'll talk about like what happened, the downfall of like of the comic part of it anyway.
Yeah, like we were saying, it was really a brief period of time considering the impact that these books had, you know, on horror, really. I mean, even to this day, total number of books produced, including the 3 Crypt Terror books, it was 45 books total, 45 comic books.
Yep.
So not a crazy amount in the comic book realm, you know. 5-year period, that was a pretty good amount for 5 years, I guess, or less than 5 years. But yeah, I mean, as far as the content goes, I guess parents were complaining. Their kids was looking at all this, you know, kids were having nightmares because of it. Because you got to remember, this was like 1950 through 1955. There was nothing else like this. I think there was like radio shows that were on that were like, you know, old time. Well, they wasn't old time then. I guess they were like radio plays that, you know, kind of, but I mean, you can't see. You have to use your imagination there. With this, 1950, man, we're talking to fuck, what in the hell was even on TV in 1950? Like the Honeymooners?
I don't even know, really. Like
Leave It to
1950 is-
Beaver, I think, was around that time. But yeah, you didn't see zombies, you didn't see vampires, you didn't see blood and guts and everything like that. But you did with these books. And the artwork on all these, like I've got that first volume back there that I was looking at, is pretty great. I'm considering how early comic book, it was early comic books, the 50s, man. And that artwork is still pretty damn good and
Oh
unique.
yeah. I mean, well, okay. If you look at like some of the people that worked in it's basically like a who's who of like some of the most famous artists that ever lived in terms of comic book artists. Yeah, Jack Davis, Frank Frazetta, Jack Kamen, Al Williamson. Who was the one of the main guys too? Oh Jesus. There's another guy too that was like a huge
Feldstein,
yeah, who was a writer and an artist as well. But yeah, I mean, like you had like all this talent, and they all had their own like unique styles, and they all were all like in the same comic book sometime with these stories. But like, so eventually, this kind of sucks. But what happens is people start ripping them off, and lesser kind of comic books start putting in gore and things like that, and there's a competition. Freaking EC raises the bar and starts showing more and more graphic kind of stuff. And then the thing that happens, that always happens when something like, gets popular like that, a bunch of uptight assholes come in and fuck it up. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, I'm one to think though, like this sort of thing was so ahead of the curve too. It's really amazing that, my dad would have been, when this began, he would have been 2 years old. Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back, and 1950, going to a drugstore and picking that up. I'm surprised that they got away with it for as long as they did. Because everything was Elvis Presley fucking offended people by swaying his damn hips.
Yeah, I think that what you saw in the mid 50s was just censorship just take over entirely, which kind of does coincide with the McCarthy era shit and stuff too. It all kind of comes together and like forms this big censorship fuck pie. And I just really like hate stuff like that. Like you're right. I don't think that comic book would have continued regardless of what happened. I think with there's a whole story about the psychiatrist who said that it was well, how did he put it? Like it was going to lead to juvenile delinquency or something like that if kids kept reading. So basically, that argument has been around for God. It's probably around in the 1800s, man. Like they were probably like, if you go to these puppet shows, you're going to be fucked up for the rest of your life or whatever. Like if you see the juggler, it's going to rot your brain. Like it's just always been going on.
So I wanted to clarify this too. Okay. So, and I'm saying right now, because I know people will correct us after the fact, probably during the fact. We're not comic book experts on this. Okay. We've kind of studied up on this for this show. So, according to what I'm finding here, there was only 27 issues with the name Tales from the Crypt. So, when they started with the International Crime Patrol and the Crime Patrol and the Crypt of Terror, and they eventually changed the name to Tales from the Crypt. At the end of the day, when they stopped, Tales from the Crypt started at issue 20 and ended at issue 46.
You know what's sad is that you're probably right that people would correct that, and that is sad to me. Like,
oh, it's the internet, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people like I said, we're going to talk about everything Tales from the Crypt, but this is like the infancy, how this name was born, and the influences in the genre that these comic books had. it's pretty amazing to think if this book didn't exist, what would we not have in the genre today? Like John Carpenter, hardcore put this over. This is one of the big things that, his escapism in Western Kentucky as a kid. He had talked about it in that documentary. And George Romero as well. He credited not only Creepshow, but Night of the Living Dead. So had Night of the Living Dead never, been made, what would that have caused? There would be a lot. The zombie genre itself would be totally different.
Exactly. Tales from the Crypt comics also invented the killer Santa Claus idea, a concept people are still using every winter. That's true. I mean, they invented a lot of like stories that are still getting ripped off to this day, to be honest.
And this is another thing that's hilarious. So he's talking about the, what is it called? The, All Through the House. Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
That was I think 1954, that issue. Can you imagine that? What the fuck?
No.
Just way ahead of the curve, man.
People are talking about the prices of some of these that are online. There's one particular issue, and somebody in here will probably know what it is, but I can't think of it. It's one of the issues that got them in the most trouble, and I just wonder how much it's going for online. It's the issue where the guy has an axe and he has the woman's head, like carrying it. I wonder just if somebody could look that up and see if you know the issue I'm talking about and see how much it's going for online.
Yeah.
By the way, that's the entire inspiration for that Maniac poster too, 100%. Like,
yeah, I mean, there were so many people influenced by it. It's, pretty much all of the big horror anthology movies, man, were taken from Tales from the Crypt. Like, was there any before? I don't see how there could have been any before. Like, you have all those British anthology movies from the late 50s, early 60s, Creep Show, Twilight Zone. You had even on up to like clearly an influence, Trick or Treat from 2007.
So what ends up happening is all these comics, not just EC, but like they're really the main focus of this witch hunt, come under fire because of all this gore and the content. And so there is this thing created based on all these new comic books called the fucking Comics Code, which is essentially like what, Tipper Gore did with the, parental advisory stickers and things like that. But it's even more kind of restrictive because
there wasn't a criteria, right?
Well, there was a criteria. It was pages and pages of criteria that you had to like know. But the thing that was funny about it is with this, you couldn't even get in a newsstand unless you had that Comics Code seal. So what William Gaines first tried to do was bypass that and just release like comic books without it, and even like change the content up some. But he couldn't, like, nobody would take his comic. They just ship it back to him because without that seal, like I think it was a Comics Code Authority or something like that.
They'd get arrested.
Without that, no, but nobody would carry it. Like it became the new symbol of whatever, like, excellence. Yeah. And eventually he really did try, but he tried to be a nice guy.
He tried.
But like they wouldn't like carry any of his stuff.
Okay, so the question that I had, though, after I'd watched the documentary, and again, I'm not a comic book guy. I've got a few, but I never really collected them or anything. But I was like, this series ended in 1955. And Amicus Films, their movie didn't come out until 1972.
Yep.
So what happened in that time frame there? And man, like for this period of time, the mid 50s throughout the late 60s, Tales from the Crypt, the fan base never gave up on that series. They started reprinting these damn things. And, they had paperback books for, I think you start looking this stuff up, all these releases and everything from these different publishers. I don't know if anything could have been reprinted as much as those Tales from the Crypt comic books from that time frame.
Oh.
And that audience just grew and grew and grew. And, it was what the media didn't want you to see, right? It's the same sort of thing like that when we were kids. What was behind that beaded curtain? Because I want to know, because it's something that I can't, they won't let me see it, right? And that makes you even more curious. So the legend of Tales from the Crypt grew and grew and grew. And the Bill Gaines, is that his name?
Yeah.
So he become even a bigger name because he created Mad Magazine, which
I had no idea that too, man. I know I should have known that before we were doing this, but I just never knew that those two things were connected. Like the same guy that did, that was responsible for Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, Haunt of Fear, all that stuff, was also responsible for Mad Magazine. So essentially, he just transitioned over to that, and that became like that shit in the 80s, man, was probably one of the most popular like things for kids.
Well, and
in the 90s as well.
Alfred E. Newman was the mascot on the cover, right? But in the magazine, Bill Gaines was kind of like the mascot. Like all of the writers in the magazine and stuff, he was, because I remember when they started showing pictures of him, I was like, oh, they showed him all the time in the magazine. It was almost all they're making fun of their boss or whatever, right? So he was a fixture in that magazine. I mean, he's passed away now, unfortunately, but for years and years and years, and made, even more money with Mad Magazine, which is, I don't think that ever left. I think that's been a constant forever.
I did think that was a great end to that story, that even though they screwed him over as much as they did, that he went on and did Mad Magazine and probably made more money than he ever would have made doing any of that. But I mean, nobody will deny the fact that like the stories and the storylines in the original comics he was doing were better than Mad Magazine, I don't think. But like
the reprints though, like I'm not I don't read. I'm from Kentucky. I don't have a lot of books or anything. I don't know. But reprints of this magnitude for this time period is kind of unheard of, I would think. I mean, shortly after, let's see, it says here that Tales from the Crypt had been reprinted on numerous occasions. Ballantine Books reprinted selected stories in a series of paperback anthologies from 1964 to 1966. The magazine was fully collected in a series of 5 black and white hardbacks by publisher Russ Cochran as a part of the complete EC library in 1979. And you should look these books up, man. They are among some of the nicest, like, you wouldn't think it was from back in the fucking 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And even the reprinted sets go for like $500-$600. It's insane. But I mean, the audience grew and grew and grew, and Amicus was doing all kinds of anthologies. Like that was mainly what they did, right? Lots of Amicus movies that I've seen are horror anthologies. So I guess there were fans as well, and decided to revive the name as a movie. And it's a pretty fucking fun movie too, man.
I love that movie. Yeah. It's always been one of my favorites. Ever since I was a kid, I had like the VHS copy of it. And like, just to give everybody an idea, because I looked this up. So it comes out in 72, like you were saying, and it's got, and All Through the House is the first one, the first story in the movie, taken from the Vault of Horror number 35, issue number 35. Reflection of Death is the second one, taken from Tales from the Crypt number 23. Poetic Justice is the other one. The Haunt of Fear number 12 is where that one comes from.
And that was the one with Peter Cushing. That was like the Valentine's.
That is the Valentine. That's a great one too, by the way.
Yeah.
Wish You Were Here, taken from the Haunt of Fear number 22. And Blind Alleys taken from Tales from the Crypt number 46.
And something that we didn't mention though, but we can mention it here too, because the Crypt Keeper is in this, but there is two different Crypt Keepers, right? There's one that's just kind of a creepy looking old man. And that's kind of what we got here. You know, the comic books, creepy old man in a cloak. This movie, creepy old man in a cloak. And this is very important. And
It's just a dude, though. It's just a,
yeah, it's just a regular
sitting-
guy, like an old man.
Yeah.
And this is important to talk about later on. So don't let me forget about this, Uncle Bill. There's the main Crypt Keeper that everybody in the chat knows, right? And that is a big block from a lot of shit that's being held up right now. But remind me later and we'll talk about that.
All right. That sounds like an interesting part of it, too. So the movie comes out, like you were saying, 72, and Amicus puts it out. I think they also did the Vault of Horror, too, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they do another movie. I don't know how. I'm looking to see how well the Tales from the Crypt movie did.
I think it did okay.
Let's see. With a budget of £170,000, it made $3 million US box office. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
definitely did well.
It was directed by Freddie Francis, boys, of the famed Francis family. They used to have a store down here in downtown Prestonsburg that sold clothes.
I, for some reason, knew you were going to say that. Yeah, Francis.
Francis.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always enjoyed the movie. The movie wasn't one that I grew up watching or anything. That I'd seen it, probably 24, 25 years old when I'd seen it. I think Warner Brothers or somebody did it. Didn't they have a DVD double feature of these as well? They had both of them on it. I think that's what I had.
That's a great disc, by the way. I mean, for anybody that's a fan of those type of movies and anthologies in general, you should have that for sure.
Oh yeah. What was the actress's name? She was in Dallas in that.
Joan Collins.
Oh man, what a good looking fucking woman then too.
I think Joan Collins at that time was like one of the selling points of the movie too. Like Peter Cushing, Joan Collins. Like they had a lot of bigger name kind of actors in it at that time.
Yeah, and 5 different stories, like you said. All of them are based on some of the old magazines. Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt, what was the other one? There's 3 different.
Oh, magazines. The Haunt of Fear.
The Haunt of Fear, yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and Peter Cushing, I think, took a pay cut just so, like, he wanted to do this movie so bad. He took like a huge pay cut to do it because I guess his rate at the time was much more than what they had to pay him. So I thought that was pretty
Jackson
cool.
Jack, you were the only person that I've ever seen reference that song. So bravo to you for that. I can't even believe that anybody knows that. I mean, I'm sure there are people that do know it, but that's
something related to the fucking Ramones or something.
No, it's Blue Oyster Cult. Actually, I've never seen anybody reference that song.
Oh, is that one of their songs?
Yeah.
Joan Collins is risen from the grave.
That's hilarious. It's a good song too. It's got
Dancing in the Ruins is one of my favorite Blue Oyster Cult songs.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, continuing on, 1972, right? And I guess, like we were saying, those reprints kept coming out. You had the special hardback copies. There was more and more generations of people getting to know Tales from the Crypt. And I think what had happened is a lot of these big directors and producers in Hollywood were also huge fans of the comics when they were kids. So that generation had grown up, and became successful filmmakers, and they all got together. And the show, and taking you back to 1989, man, I tried to go back there if only for a day, Uncle Bill. With the internet, you can kind of go back there. And HBO, as far as original programming and everything, it was really in its infancy. You had fucking Babar.
Used to love Babar. I used to watch that show all the time.
I love Babar too. Yeah. Babar is the man. And Dream On, which I actually love that show as well
I
when I
did
was
too.
a kid.
Used to watch that.
Encyclopedia Brown. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yep.
That one was on. But the big one at the time that they put lots of money in, and horror was still popular because this was started in the late 80s. They put a lot behind this Tales from the Crypt series. And there were big stars that they got in these episodes as well. Most of them are like half-hour episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I couldn't recall, because I always remember on the weekends watching it, but they would rerun shit all the time. And this is what I had to look up because I was thinking this show was like on Saturdays or Friday nights or something like that. This show was on all the time. So if you looked on, and for all of the people in the chat, if you're over the age of 40 and you had HBO, you will remember those HBO guides, and thank God for archive.org. And I went back and looked at they replayed shit all the fucking time on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't recall it, So
I love for a second that fucking Justin Smith is taking shots at Babar. He's
Look,
like,
buddy,
Babar made no
talking about fucking Babar.
Not in this chat. You ain't gonna talk about Babar in here, buddy.
You're gonna get banned for life talking about Babar.
MG, real quick. Yes, I did get that, and big thanks to Phantasmat for picking that up, sending it to me. So I want to talk about the producers of this show real quick, because it's like a murderer's row of people that were like huge producers at that time period. So you got the executive producers on this show, okay, were Richard Donner, Walter Hill, Joel Silver, David Giller, and Robert Zemeckis. Like every huge producer and director from around that time period were attached to this TV series for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's got a huge reason why it was popular. That and the fact it was on HBO and there was no censorship. They got away with murder in terms of like sex, violence, profanities. Watch your profanities.
Well, and HBO, they were really working with a pretty damn good budget too. Like these shows.
Oh, yeah, I mean those guys, man, were all like multimillionaires by that point.
And let me tell you all something. A lot of people bitch about the DVDs and everything, talking about those 4K remastered episodes on YouTube. I don't know what the fuck you all are watching, but the DVD looks 10 times better than those fucking YouTube rips that's on. I'm like, are you kidding me? If you put the DVD in a 4K player, it looks 10-1 better than those shitty fucking YouTube episodes. So I don't agree with whoever told me that.
I've never watched those 4K. I don't give a shit that much. I just have the DVDs and pray that sometime they come out with something else.
Blurry as shit, man. They look like shit.
Fuck them.
Yeah, I think they look like shit too, Mike. Everybody's bragging, oh man, they did a great job. No, put your fucking DVD in there. It looks better.
But I'll tell you this. I'm going to tell you this right now. And it's no joke. This was a simpler time in history around 90 when the show aired, right? And this was at a time period when people weren't so like hoity-toity about everything, and everything had to be perfect, and everybody was a filmmaker or a writer or had, act like they go to film school and shit and had an opinion about everything. So I'm going to tell you what sold that series to a lot of kids. And it's simple. The music and that intro.
And
that
was like the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like with the Crypt Keeper being in it as well. But like when I was a kid, I used to just love to watch that intro.
Oh yeah.
It's like a whole
I mean, you
thing.
knew it, you were going to be in for a fun time, and the marketing behind it as well. And I pulled up, and I've got some of these ready because I thought this would be cool to include on here. Some of their marketing material at the time. This is from HBO Guide in July of '89. And look at that. Now, if you're at the time I would have been 9 years old looking at this shit, I'm like, holy shit, this looks so cool. Tales of murder, madness, and mayhem. And that's just the fun part. Strong content, parental discretion's advised. When you hear parental discretion's advised at 9 years old, you're like, this is going to be some good shit.
You know, that's going to be good. Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the first season episodes there, and the HBO guide was some prime reading material when you were taking a gigantic shit as a kid. But yeah, so, and I don't know about you, and I watched a couple of the episodes preparing for the show, but it seemed to me that really the best episodes of the show was in the first 3 or 4 seasons. I don't recall, I was looking through them, reading the synopsis and everything. I don't recall any of them past like the 4th season, I think. I may be wrong, but
the weird part about it is like, to me, there's like really great episodes scattered like all the way through. Maybe not the last season, but like up until then, like I can find 1 or 2 that I really, really loved around that time. But you're right. Like
the heavy hitters, I think, was the first 2 or 3 seasons for sure.
Yeah. The original ones are like amazing. I'm looking at them right now and it's like, so
one of my favorite ones. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to say, like in season 2, you've got The Switch, which is the Schwarzenegger one, which is great. Cutting Cards, which is the Lance Hendricks one.
That's one that I always remembered. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got, God, there's so many fucking ones.
There's one can I mention one that was in season 2 that I kind of forgot about it a little bit, but I was like, I think this one is really, really good. It's called The Ventriloquist Dummy.
I knew you were going to say it because it's got Bobcat in it and Don Rickles, yeah.
And Don Rickles has this fucking... I just love that shit. Morty, I think, is...
Yep.
And he has like this New York accent, and he likes looking at the women, and he talks like that. That's a whole hell of a lot of fun. I remember one.
I remember Television Terror because it had Morton Downey Jr. in it. Do you remember that one where he was like,
yeah,
he goes to like a haunted house or whatever, and like he's trying to do like an expose, and it ends up really being like haunted.
Yeah, the WNUF Halloween special ripped it off.
Yeah, and then My Brother's Keeper. Do you remember that one? That one was fucking killer too.
My Brother's Keeper with who's in that?
It says Timothy Stack and Jonathan Stark.
I don't remember that one.
It also has Jessica.
I'm sure I've seen it, but I can't. A lot of those TV shows I can't remember them by the name. But another one that I recalled from, I think it's the 2nd season, was the name of the episode was Fitting Punishment, where Moses Gunn is this mean ass uncle that's taking in his nephew. He works in a funeral home or whatever, and keeps punishing the boy until it's kind of too late. And
I remember that one now. Yeah. Now the one that one of my favorites is in season 3, and I always remember it. I don't know fucking why, but I always do. Is called Carrying Death, where it's the murderer that escapes prison, but he's got like the cop attached to him by handcuffs, and then this like vulture is following him around the entire time. That's always been like one of my favorite episodes.
Great episodes. Tons of them in the first 2 seasons. All through the house. They did the remake of that one too. I think that may have been the first episode or the first couple of episodes. Mary Ellen Trainor from the Goonies and Monster Squad is in that, and of course Dr. Giggles himself is the evil Santa Claus.
Very great. Yeah. He's actually really good in that. Yeah.
He's just playing himself though. So creepy old nasty motherfucker.
But I could go on, man. There's like so many good episodes in this. So I don't think we can go through all of them, but like just.
You want to look at some more HBO Guide stuff I saved on here? Let's see.
Yeah, let's look at it.
We can look at it in chronological order here. This is from June of 1990. And there is the Ventriloquist Dummy episode there with Don Rickles and Morty. Yep. And just look at that. Kane. I mean, Carol Kane. man, they had some like pretty big name actors and actresses. Arnold Schwarzenegger was in an episode as well. Brad Dourif, Brad Pitt, Brooke Shields, Catherine O'Hara. Jada Pinkett is in this really before she was a star. She was in one of the movies as well, I think, right? Wasn't she in one of those the
Was she in
Demon Knight, I think?
Demon Knight? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really keep up with Jada Pinkett Smith, whatever Jada Pinkett.
This one's from October of 1990 there. And some of these scans aren't the best, but I mean, who the fuck would have even thought to save these? This is so killer that this shit exists.
That's killer. I don't remember that at all, but that's awesome.
Yeah. And, this was October 91. They promoted the shit out of Tales from the Crypt. October of 93. And season premiere, and this was what I was questioning too, because you're looking at these episodes, Uncle Bill. If you look at the air dates, there's a few of them that all aired on the same day. And I was like, well, what the fuck was the deal with that? But evidently the season premiere, they had 3 episodes back to back. And kicked it off Saturday, October the 2nd.
That one, that ad you're showing out there also has one of my favorite episodes, Death of Some Salesman, with Tim Curry playing 3 different roles, where he plays like the sisters, and he plays the daughter, he plays the mother, and he plays the father.
I don't know what season this one's on, but the one with Joe Pesci, the split personality one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where he's like this conniving, almost like he's kind of a gold digger or whatever, looking for, and he finds these 2 twins that are billionaires, and he can't pick just one. He wants both of them. And then, of course it doesn't go well for him. And then this was the final season. I could have gotten more, but man, this is like falling in a very deep rabbit hole here. August of 1996, the final season premiere, Tales from the Crypt. Unfortunately, it ended in 96 as a TV show. But man, what a freaking run. Like, I'm thinking that even though, the later seasons and everything, it probably shouldn't have ended.
No. But I mean, everything runs its course over a period of time. And for some reason, like, I just think people got they get tired of everything, really.
Right.
But it did in the last season. I especially remember that, like in the last season, the writing and it just kind of fell off.
Fred Decker did write some episodes. He directed one episode too.
Yeah.
It Came from the Grave. I think that's one of the better episodes. I think that he directed that one with Terry Hatcher, I think, is in that.
Did he write? Maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought he wrote the All Through the House one, that whatever would become All Through the House.
He wrote a few episodes. I can't remember exactly the ones.
Hold on, let me look.
That he did.
Fucking shit! Come on. So that was episode 2. Yeah, he wrote that and All Through the House.
Yeah, Fred Decker's a talented motherfucker. Unfortunately, like, he never did really get his due, which is sad. But
he really did get screwed over quite a bit. Yeah,
had a distinct style, and I mean, just really unfortunate. I think he did get a writing credit. I don't know if he would have wanted it for the Predator reboot.
Yeah.
It was like, what was that, 4 or 5 years ago or something, whenever that came out, with our old high school buddy, Robbie Holbrook. He thought that was going to be one of his big breakthrough roles, but
he thought that was going to set the world on fire.
Dude, he has been in some big stuff, but he just hasn't been in anything really that good. It's not really his fault. It's just Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah.
There was one that I tried to watch though, called Reluctant Vampire, because it seemed like I kind of remembered it, but that one fucking sucks. It's Malcolm McDowell's in it, and it's like a night watchman, and he's a vampire, and he's reluctant. He doesn't want to kill people. So I was like, This doesn't interest me. He gets blood from a blood bank or something like that. Like, no. I don't know what season that was either.
I'm a reluctant vampire.
Malcolm McDowell's just got X-Pac heat with me, man. Not a
He
fan.
really does. I've noticed that. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's because of Halloween. I think ever since then you really not liked him.
So I guess we could talk about the movie. The movies happened while the show was still going on.
Man, these movies.
Dude, people may disagree with me on this, but this is one of the few occasions where I think that the sequel is better than the first movie. Not that it's actually good.
Yeah.
But it's just goofy and fun and so 90s that, and it's got a shit ton of fucking nudity in it too, man. Like some of these girls, there was this African American queen that was in this. She had to be like a penthouse model.
I'm sure she was.
Holy shit.
For people that don't know, so the Tales from the Crypt, the original movie came out in 72. Then the Vault came out in 73. And then the ones that we're talking about right now are Demon Knight came out in 95, and then Bordello of Blood came out in 96. So Demon Knight is a fucking weird movie. Billy Zane is in it. It's very, very odd. Bordello of Blood.
I'll tell you what else is weird too, and I think it's they do this for both movies. It's essentially just a long episode of the TV show.
Yeah, it is.
It has the same intro, the same font that has the name of whatever, Bordello of Blood or Demon Knight or whatever. I was confused by that because it really had the same production value as the damn show too.
Dennis Miller is a hard person for me to take as like a dramatic lead. I mean, he's like a wisecracking dude in the movie Bordello of Blood, but like it's just hard for me to take him as a lead actor in anything for some reason. He's not even really an actor.
It is odd. Yeah, he's a character actor.
Hey,
I guess he was kind of big.
I mean,
well, he was in same year. Well, or maybe a year earlier, Shawshank Redemption, which is hilarious.
Wait, Dennis Miller was in Shawshank?
No, I thought you were talking about Sadler. I thought you said William Sadler.
No, I'm talking about like no, man. William Sadler's
Dennis Miller's not a fucking character. Dennis Miller's not even a fucking actor. Really.
That's what I'm saying. But he's like the main guy in that fucking movie, and it's like, how do you take that seriously? To me, he's not good in that movie. I mean, he's got like he does his stand-up shit and stuff in it, like jokes, but he's not. Oh. He just does not belong in that movie.
Probably, but like, this has to be the last theatrical.
Dennis Miller and Shawshank.
That would have been killer. Corey Feldman is in this as well, and this has to be the last like theatrical movie that Corey Feldman did. It has to be.
Corey Feldman, fucking.
But
he plays a vampire in it too. I mean, he's not. He doesn't start out as a vampire, I don't think, but he turns into one. It's just that movie is
tons of nudity too, man. Oh my, holy shit. Tons of nudity. And OCP, we're going to talk about that, and that's kind of an interesting story too. Thank you for the super chat, broski. But getting into the movies though, I mean, as far as Demon Knight versus Bordello of Blood, do you have a preference? I mean, for me, did I bring it in here?
Not really, man. I could take either one of those movies or fucking leave them. But if you had a gun to my head, like I'd probably pick Demon Knight.
I still have this, and I watched it on this, and I'm fine with this. These movies, and this is a prime example, these two right here. Some movies are fine to just have on DVD, and these two right here are a good example of that.
You know who's got those out though on Blu-ray if you want them on Blu-ray.
Don't do it. Don't even say their name above the whisper.
It's like Beetlejuice.
I'm not kidding you, man. Like, seriously, both of these movies are on one disc as well. And for these movies, they looked fine. I mean, Phil Fondacaro's in Bordello Blood as well, I think, briefly.
So there is another movie. I've never seen it, but somebody just referenced it, so I might as well bring it up. In 2006, there's Tales from the Crypt Ritual.
It's not really a Tales from the Crypt movie.
I've never even heard of that.
There's two different cuts of the movie. I think it's a remake of like an old, what was it? I Walk with a Zombie or something like that.
Yeah.
And the story is I get the movie's not the worst, but it's not very exciting either. And it stars fucking Craig Sheffer and Jennifer Grey after she had her nose job and nobody recognized her.
That's a sad time period for her, yeah.
So they couldn't sell. I mean, they didn't have any way to sell it. And they went back and added like an intro with a really shitty, like almost like a Crypt Keeper stick figure. Like it looks fucking terrible. It looks so. I went on, I think it's on YouTube. Jesus Christ. To give you an idea, they did intros for those Tales from the Crypt DVD, like new intros with the puppet. The puppet on that looks 10 times better than that fucking thing that they had for the intro.
I've never even heard of that movie, man. Like, I don't know how, but I've got to like try to watch at least the beginning of it.
Vinegar Syndrome will probably come out with a 4K.
Yeah, that's like come out in a big gatefold box set or something.
I mean, I don't think it's anything anybody really needs. I've never watched it all the way through. I've never had the desire to watch it all the way through. It looks like just a cheap, generic, one of those movies that Lionsgate made back in the mid 2000s.
I just want to see it just to say that I've seen it because I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there was two different cuts of it. There was the cut where it was just called Ritual or whatever. And then like a year after, like I think it was made in 2002 and the DVD didn't come out until 2006.
Yeah.
So the final version with the Crypt Keeper and everything wasn't on anything until that DVD came out. So I think you can still maybe even see the version that was before, which, I mean, both of them are not going to be very good.
Yeah, you always know it's a bad idea when a movie comes out like 4 years later and they just kind of slap a name on it.
Yeah, that's how they do it. But yeah, one thing that Mike was mentioning earlier about the Dead Easy movie. So Universal Pictures signed a 3-picture deal for 3 Tales from the Crypt movies. And Bordello Blood didn't really make even though I think I like that one a little bit better than Demon Knight, but it didn't make as much money, wasn't as successful, so they just nixed the idea of the 3rd movie. But I think initially, now, if memory serves me, I think at the end of, it may have been Demon Knight, actually. The 2nd movie was going to be Dead Easy. Is that right? Somebody in the chat will let me know. And they even have I think there's a post-credit sequence that actually like announces it or something, and it never came out. And they just went ahead with Bordello of Blood. So that's kind of interesting. I think I had read that. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story. It was the Unmade Tales from the Crypt movie.
Well, so now's the time to ask then, because we've gone through a lot of this, but what is the connection that you were talking about earlier between the Crypt Keeper and the reason why there's all this turmoil about the series coming out and all this?
So there, for a long time there, the HBO and Joe Silver and all those people had an agreement that to use the name and to be able to use the license, and the Crypt Keeper is, the Crypt Keeper from the show, all this. There's an interview that John Casser did that I found where he was talking about how all that changed. I think he talked Bloody Disgusting, and says in the interview, obviously Tales from the Crypt was a comic book and those rights were granted to the producers of the show back in the late 80s. So then they started producing the show. And of course, like you were saying earlier, very big producers, Joel Silver, who did Lethal Weapon, the Die Hard, Matrix movies. He did all kinds of shit from way back in the 70s and 80s and everything. Richard Donner, Walter Hill, Robert Zemeckis, all those guys. And the rights reverted because I don't know what year Bill Gaines passed away. The guy that
92. He passed away in 92.
So the rights reverted back to the family whenever their contract expired or whatever. I don't know how long that contract was. And he said that they probably gave them to a lawyer who doesn't work in the industry. So there's producers like Joel Silver and Donner and all of them. They own the Crypt Keeper from the show, the likeness and everything, but they don't own the name, the Crypt Keeper. They don't own Tales from the Crypt. That property is the family of Bill Gaines.
So you're fucking sitting there and telling me then that they can't do those sets because they would have to take out the Crypt Keeper. They won't let them use the Crypt Keeper.
That I mean, as far as, well, we'll continue on here. He says that those producers own this Crypt Keeper but can't create new material with it without the rights. All the old stuff we created belongs to the producers, but the name doesn't. So for them to do more, they would have to get the rights back, which they haven't been able to get EC Comics to grant. EC did grant them to TNT, who were going to do a whole block of horror with M. Night Shyamalan, and Crypt Keeper was going to be the host, but they couldn't get the Crypt Keeper that everybody knows. So that's how that one fell apart, according to John Casser.
It reminds me of the fucking Scream thing where somebody owns the name Scream, but then somebody else, you can put out Ghostface. If you call him Ghostface and don't associate it with Scream, it's like a giant fucking legal mess.
Yeah. I mean, this is as far as new stuff. So if they, for instance, wanted to do a revival show, they would have to come to some sort of agreement to do it. Now, as far as the old stuff goes, would probably be owned by the studio. And from what we've talked about this numerous times before with Felcher and everything, Tales from the Crypt was one of those shows that was shot on film but edited on video. And I don't think it would be a gigantic amount of money to do it. I think somebody like Felcher could re-edit it if they had all that footage. The problem is finding all that footage, even if it still exists, and then getting it all in order and re-editing all the different shots to have it line up with the show. It would be a gigantic mess to do. It would be difficult. It would be kind of expensive, I guess, because you'd have to have somebody working on it for probably years to get it. I think that the goal, if they were to find it, 6 episodes in the first season, do the first season, remaster it, put a fucking 4K of it out, right? See if it sells.
Oh, it would sell, man. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. But I don't think it's going to happen, man. Physical media is not a big thing anymore either. So that may be part of it too.
Yeah, from their perspective, they probably don't see the money in it now, especially. So, I mean, that makes sense.
Fuck. That ain't not Justin. So it's sad, what was the last Tales from the Crypt?
Well, somebody brought up there was a cartoon
I never did watch that.
I never saw the cartoon.
I don't understand how that even happened.
I don't know, like that one. And I don't know, like there was a game show as well.
Yeah, there was albums. You know, another super chat, man. Appreciate it, Mike. OCP Communications over on YouTube. He has a pretty killer channel himself. This guy buys more physical media than me and Uncle Bill combined, I think.
Yeah.
Did you know about or see episodes of Perversions of Science, a sci-fi spinoff with the horny robot as the host? I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever did watch it.
Nope.
What say you?
I've never seen it, nor have I heard of it, really. Perversions of Science is a great name, though.
That almost sounds like a Dio album.
It does.
Perversions of the Rainbow.
So what is the last thing that so nothing's coming up next, clearly because of all the legal shit. So what was the last Tales from the Crypt? Somebody in here's got to know. What was the last Tales from the Crypt? Anything that came
Property.
out? Property, yeah.
Well, they're still doing, and this is an example of that. They're still doing reprints of the comics.
Oh yeah.
This so all this stuff like this from the 50s is still coming out on a regular basis and is really popular. They've got a variety of different comics from the EC era called the EC Archives. And this one is, I think it has 6 different comics in it and beautifully made, man. I was really impressed with this edition here. $13.99 or something like that on Amazon. And they're coming out with all of them. I think the final one is coming out in January, like volume 5 or whatever it is. That's going to have, ultimately you'll have every edition in these nice, glossy, full color comics. So they're still doing that. But as far as that show goes, that's the big thing. And they can't do movies or anything because the name Tales from the Crypt for the majority of the public out there is that show. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that era. I don't think you can do a Tales from the Crypt movie without the Crypt Keeper and John Casser. I mean, it'd be very difficult. I think people would probably shit all over it.
The Crypt Keeper had a rap song called The Crypt Jam.
The Crypt Jam.
I'd love to hear that. So OCP says I think it was the game show, meaning the last thing that came out. There was some ads for a cable channel with Casser voicing the puppet, but that was back in the 2000s.
Okay. It's sad, man. It really is.
Bordello Blood of the Shawshank Redemption.
Hey. William Sadler, Dennis Miller.
I remember this. There was a Christmas album too. Fucking shit.
They need to come out with the. See, that's the thing. Like they could come out with the vinyls of that. I don't think they could do that. I don't think they would be able to do it. Right? They would have to have the rights back to the name.
Everything had a Christmas album at one point in time, and that was a huge.
I think the Simpsons started that.
Yeah.
Around that time period, at least. So yeah, I mean. For me, as far as Tales from the Crypt memories, if we want to kind of roll everything up and wrap it up, the TV show, of course, HBO around this time period I was addicted to fucking HBO around this time period. And for anybody out there, and I mentioned this before, the HBO Guide, go back on archive.org, look some of those up. Like I took a screenshot. I can't remember if I sent it to you or not, but I was like, oh, I'm going to look in October and see when The Worst Witch was playing in like 1990 or whatever. And there it was, nonstop. So very special time period for me. And especially around this time of year, they were always playing cool shit. And Tales from the Crypt was definitely one of those, and very well made show. Probably the best horror anthology TV show, wouldn't you say? I can't think of anything that has as many great
No,
episodes.
it's by far the best one. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, you look at a couple of the other ones, and they have good episodes, but nothing consistently that was as great. Like, I mean, you got Tales from the Dark Side, you got the Hitchhiker, you've got the Masters of Horror series that came out like in the 2000s. But like to me, there's nothing that really compared with Tales from the Crypt. Um, but yeah, I mean, to me, that show is iconic, but it's to learn the backstory behind the comics and everything was crazy because it was probably the beginning of any kind of like subversive horror, like of graphic, like subversive slashery kind of like
Like
all that.
gore and titties
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like all that stuff that you think about that
Foul language.
came in the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that was really in comic books in like the early 50s. Like it's just so bizarre to think about that, but
How ahead of the curve they were
yeah,
for that sort of thing, and inspired a generation of filmmakers. Man, I mean, who knows what movies we would not have today had those comic books not exist. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And the comics still hold up, man. I read a few stories from that when I picked that up. And dude, you could still make episodes that they never did out of some of those stories. Um, so, but yeah, that is Tales from the Crypt, the EC story from the EC comics all the way up to the HBO show that was a gigantic hit, 6 seasons, 7 seasons, something like that. And man, like it would be a perfect show to do a revival of. Nobody would be pissed off about doing a revival of it.
no.
It new stories and
It would suck
everything.
nowadays though.
It may suck.
It'd be the most woke shit you've ever seen in your life. Like
That's
every
true.
episode would fucking
That's true. Maybe
have
they
some
should just
sort of
leave it alone.
political agenda to it. Yeah, just leave it alone now.
It would be very cool to get them remastered at some point. But there's a lot of shows. I think of all the shows that we've talked to Felcher about, though, Tales from the Crypt is probably the one that has the most chance of that happening because of its popularity. Like there were a lot of episodes, like Freddy's Nightmares, which that show fucking is dog shit. It's fucking awful, but it's Freddy Krueger, so people would probably get it. But it's shitty. It's a fucking terrible show. All of the episodes are bad. Tales from the Dark Side, I think that one would be a good one to do, but
the Friday the 13th show too, like yeah, I think it's better than Freddy's Nightmares, but it's also kind of shitty too. Like it's not good, especially towards like the later parts of it.
yeah, I don't think there'd be a market for that. Tales from the Dark Side, there is a market for those, but I think the one that has the shot the most would be Tales from the Crypt if all that footage still exists. That's a big if.
Yeah. So yeah, until they come up with something new, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. They're too busy making fucking spinoffs of Star Wars and superhero TV shows. So that's the only TV shows that get made anymore.
But Tales from the Crypt, very important show for HBO as well. It helped them go on and make other big shows, and up to that point, I think that they had a ton of just awful, like short-lived series. They didn't have they were very cheaply made. Like when I was a kid, I loved the Encyclopedia Brown show, which they only made like 5 or 6 episodes of that. But if you watch that today, like there's a couple of episodes on YouTube, dude, those are so. The woke creepy Kentuckian's back, boss. I'm not putting that on the screen. We ain't doing that, boss. No.
Oh God, that's my favorite reoccurring character in this fucking chat. Oh, okay.
Do you all want to hear who we're going to have as a guest on the show.
Oh yeah,
next
I
week.
almost forgot about that.
Everybody in the chat's going to be
like I said earlier, people that have not listened to our show, like the early incarnation of our show, are not going to give one single shit about this. The people that have are going to fucking mark out. So,
yeah. So stay tuned. I think we should do an unboxing though before we.
Yeah. You gonna make people wait even longer?
I'm gonna make you wait.
Damn it.
No, I'm not gonna make you wait. If you're an old school Dead Pit fan, you've probably asked where this person has been. And I've known all along where she's been, but she hasn't wanted to talk horror or get out there until recently. In fact, she messaged me. It's a she. It's a she, Uncle Bill. One of the original horror hosts on YouTube, anybody starting to get goosebumps, is coming back, and is coming back to the Dead Pit show next week. The return, the resurrection of Miko Macabre, Uncle Bill. It's time, boys. She's back and ready to attack the horror genre again. What do you think of that?
I told you this when we were talking about her before, man. Like she, at that time period that we were doing the show and we were putting stuff up on YouTube, she had all that shit figured out then. She had stuff that people are just now figuring out about how to do videos figured out like 2008 or something like that. She could have been like, if she'd have kept that going, like she would have been as big as like anybody, any of those like horror hosts and stuff today, like the Grim Life Collective or fucking whoever that other asshole is.
Yeah, I think she was very good. She was very young at the time. I think she was older than 17. Somebody said in the chat, but yeah, it was one of those deals where it was just so early on. We're talking 2007, 2008, right around the time we were on YouTube. Miko Macabre was around and we were all buddies, and she would do the Saturday Nightmare shows from time to time. And her and I've always, like, there's never been a falling out. I know people thought that there was a falling out about the song and everything, but she's got the same sense of humor as us, believe it or not. And I talked to her a few years ago when we first came back. She wasn't ready to do anything then, but now, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We're going to talk and see what she's been up to, and maybe talk about what she's doing in the genre. She's going to have some new stuff, I think, coming in some form. So I think it's going to be a real fun discussion.
If you want to get like an idea, it's still up on YouTube. If you look her name up and you look up, I think those videos are still up because I was looking the other day.
Yeah.
And there's like the Night of the Demons one, which is in my opinion, like probably the best one.
Look, boys, we need to behave.
We need to be nice.
Should I play the song as our intro song next week?
It should. Yeah.
No, that wouldn't be any good. But yeah, I'm kind of excited that we're going to have her on, and it just brings us back there, if only for a day, talking, old school. We're talking 15, 16, 17 years ago was some of the last stuff that she ever did. So it'll be cool to get her name out there again, and people can check out some of these old videos and stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait for that, man, because we've been talking about this for like years about what happened, and I want to know the backstory, and we'll find out. But Christian brings up an interesting point real quick. Fucking sandpiper picture shit. Like, I know this has nothing to do with the show, but
Who is Sandpiper Pictures?
Who is fucking Sandpiper? And also, have you seen those fucking Blu-rays? They look like something that you'd put out. Kinko's would put out in like 1998.
Yeah.
It looks ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with the DVDs. I'm not buying those.
I mean, fucking 88 Films put that shit out. I mean, it's region 2, but like it's been out forever.
Dude, seriously though, like we were talking about, where's my shit? I lose everything here. I can't keep track of nothing. We were talking about the Tales from the Crypt DVDs. It's the same way for the Sleepaway Camp sequels. Like I don't need that shit in Blu-ray. I mean, what the fuck? Is it ever gonna look pristine? Those movies are cheaply made anyway. Who gives a shit? Did I lose Uncle Bill? He looks all pixelated, baby. He looks like he's on a public access show back in 1984.
I have no idea what you just said at all because if my internet stays on too long, it starts fucking up.
Well, it ain't been on that long. We've only been doing this for 90 minutes.
What do you want me to do, motherfucker? I'm just telling you. No.
That's what I want you to do. I want you.
Don't make that noise. No. Now.
As far as Sandpiper Pictures goes, whoever it is, I know a lot of people have said it's people that worked at all the films. Their strategy is they are not doing anything to the transfers on these. They're not putting any special features, and they're charging a premium because a lot of this stuff's out of print, like Sleepaway Camp, movies. I picked up Invaders from Mars just because I didn't have it. I didn't own it on anything, and I wanted it. And these movies are, what, $25 a piece? They're not cheap Blu-rays.
Yeah. I just hate that name, man. Sandpiper Films. What the fuck does that even mean? Little bird films? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Sandpiper is a bird, right? Isn't that like a seagull or something?
Yeah, fly away, little seagull.
I'll tell you something that happened when we was at the beach last week, Uncle Bill, and you'll die laughing at this shit.
What?
Sandpiper CEO, Dennis Miller. That's who it is. We were out in the ocean. This was before the hurricane, right? It was a goddamn seagull. Have you ever been close to a fucking seagull before?
How close we talking?
Like it swooped by our head almost.
No.
Them fucking things have got to weigh at least 30 or 40 pounds. They're gigantic.
Fucking great.
It scared the shit out of me. I was like, what in the fuck?
Let me kill it. Oh, sandpaper.
Not a seagull. No, a seagull's not big. What's the other one? It ain't a seagull.
Seagulls are fairly big.
The one with the big beak or whatever.
A pelican?
Pelican. That's what it was. It's a pelican.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seagulls are just regular sized birds. The pelican is what I was talking about.
Yep. So, yeah, Sandman and Roddy Piper, the Sandpipers. Sounds like a shitty Survivor Series team. I
told you guys, though, and Rumpelstiltskin is coming out from TerraVision. I sold my DVD today, and it sold quickly. I'm trying to tell you fucking people.
It violently.
Because after the word gets out that there's a 4K of, it's going to plummet. You're not going to get $5 for your old artisan DVD. Did you pick up your Rumpelstiltskin copy, Uncle Bill?
Buddy, I think we've reached some sort of point where it's like you got to draw a line in the sand, man. Like $80 for Rumpelstiltskin is just not going to happen. It might happen for a couple people, but it ain't going to happen for me.
That's only if you wanted the bib and the sunglasses. There's another version that's like $45.
$45 is $40 too much.
Can you believe they had a goddamn
movie? A line in the Sandpiper.
A fucking Rumpelstiltskin bib exists.
Yes. Severin has
so
fucked.
Great.
I told you what was going to happen, man. Like after all this shit with Severin and Scream Factory got started, all these other companies are directing everything at collectors now. You're going to have everything in the world jammed into these fucking bundles and stuff now. It's going to be just like conventions. It's going to get ridiculous. It's already ridiculous.
I got a bundle of joy in my hands.
Well, you cream all over that bundle.
You won't think what I got a bundle in here. What's in the box? Is it a severed head?
What's in the box?
But continue on talking. I'm trying to preserve this tape here so I can keep it. I'm going to collect it.
I'm going to fucking kill you if you don't quit.
Who's in the chat?
Tape.
Elves, unfortunately, the material for Elves, it's believed to be gone forever. Unless somebody finds it in a...
Suspirian Knight says he can't wait a Salo snow globe.
It'd be a Salo shit globe. It's got like little turds floating around in it.
Can't wait for the Sandpiper Blu-ray release bundles. Comes with a baby shovel and PVC pipes. Yeah.
Well, it's a pre-order though for Rumpelstiltskin. I think they said it's supposed to come out in December. How much money you want to bet that doesn't even come out in December?
I want to get that fucking Silence of the Lambs 4K. I got the Hitcher 4K. That Silence of the Lambs 4K is the next on my list to buy. Yeah.
Release of the year, boys. I haven't even opened it yet, but I can already tell it's a release of the year.
It weighs as much as a damn cinder block, man. I couldn't believe that when I got it in.
Yeah, what is it? 2 different books?
Yeah.
You got a screenplay and like the...
Oh, look here.
Really? I mean, it's hard. Nobody can compete with Second Sight. They are the best. They are the best.
Yep.
So I had heard a rumor too, since Christian's in here, and I don't know if anybody's told him a thing or two about a thing or two, but the rumor that I heard is by maybe this time next year, there's going to be an unbelievable box set of Nightmare on Elm Street that people will flip their shit over. I don't know exactly what that means, what that entails, if it's like director's cut stuff or what, but somebody told me that today, that is in the works.
Well, I'd just like to take this time to say, for somebody that's been on this show for goddamn near 20 years, that'd been information I would have liked to have known, cocksucker. You didn't tell me nothing about it.
Well,
you don't like friend for almost fucking 30 years.
You don't like it. You don't like Nightmare on Elm Street, though. And I can't confirm it. I mean, it's just a rumor. It ain't like it's fucking fact.
Well, it depends on who told you. You can tell me after we get off here.
Yeah, Warner Brothers is the ones doing it. That's what I'd been told.
I believe that. I mean, if it's anybody going to do it, it's going to be them. There ain't no doubt in my mind.
Sandpiper Pictures is doing it. That'd be so cute.
No, that'd be the fucking worst box set ever.
What's funny about Sandpiper Pictures is that company has been around for a while, and nobody is even like, they don't have a website, they don't have a Facebook page. We don't even have a name of anybody that works there.
Nope. They don't want you to know. It's fucking the clandestine operation.
So, yeah, you got that to look forward to. Nightmare on Elm Street box.
You gonna stay on here and tell me what in the fuck's going on?
Well, I mean, I don't really have any more details than that.
Well, we'll find out.
So, what's going on, Uncle Bill? Are you doing any shows coming up here this weekend?
So, a couple of shows that are planned. Friday Night Lives, of course, 10 o'clock on Fridays all the time. We're going through 90 to 94 or 5. I don't know which one.
90 to 94, I think, is what Rambo said.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about our 5 favorite films from each one of those years. Not horror related necessarily, just 5 favorite films from each one of those years. That's always an awesome show. And then Sunday, Garrett and I are doing the Bravo Countdown show. And I don't know, I have to go look, like it goes like 39, I think, from whatever to 39. So that's where we'll end up by the end of the show on Sunday at 10.
The 100 scariest movie moments from Bravo.
Y'all.
2004. And I want to be on the Euro Crypt podcast on Sunday afternoon. So that'll be fun. We're talking about Spanish horror movies, some Paul Nashy stuff. I'm going to finally be reviewing Anguish from 87, and Faceless from our good buddy Jesus Franco. So that'll be good too. Look here, Uncle Bill. Look at how far I've came. Look at what I've gotten this tape off here.
Would you open that fucking box?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit longer.
Oh God.
All right.
OCP wants to know honestly though, when is Trick or Treat coming out? Motherfucker.
Never.
Trick or Treat. We honestly don't know.
Dude, at this point, like, we made fun of Felcher for so long. It's like beating a dead horse at this point. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
not doing it anymore.
I'm not aggravating him. It'll be when it's out, it'll be out. I know it'll be killer when it's finally out. It may be Halloween next year. I don't know.
I just like the fact that Sandpaper's taking the reins on Trick or Treat. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also, again, if anybody's just now tuning in, a week from tonight, YouTube's original horror host, we were talking about the Crypt Keeper earlier, right? 2007 era boss, Miko Macabre is returning to DEADPIT Radio and returning to YouTube for the first time in like 17 years. So it's a pretty huge deal. And I think people are going to be excited about that. If you're an old school DEADPIT fan, you definitely remember Miko from the Saturday Nightmare shows and the Cryptique and all that good stuff. And she is making her resurrection, her return, 1 week from tonight, 10 p.m., 10/10/24. It's going to be huge, Uncle Bill. It's going to be huge.
I have loads of questions. I'm sure you do too. It's going to be awesome. If she actually does decide to get back into this game, then we need to just quit because she's going to like, she'll have.
We're going to join forces with her.
We need to because she'll have as many subscribers as us in like 2 weeks. She'll be like, fuck.
Probably. All right.
There's a formula to YouTube, and one of the parts of it is to be an attractive female horror host.
Sickness, though. I can't even remember the shit that I ordered here. I don't remember how much these were. Maybe you can help me, Uncle Bill. Dario Argento's Trauma.
Dude, I can't remember any of that.
I think it was $10 or
it wasn't any more than $10, yeah.
Yeah. Man, they had some great deals. This is Vinegar Syndrome package, by the way, from their most recent sale. They have a sale every damn month. The Laughing Dead. I think that's a Spanish horror movie, isn't it?
Got me on that one. I've never seen it.
I can't pronounce these fucking names. It's some guy from a foreign land.
Some guy from a foreign land.
A stranger in a strange world.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, this made me fucking jizz my panties a little bit. Like the press release about the Beyond 4K. I thought it was going to be the actual like pre-order, and I shit myself, and then it was just like a teaser on
Yeah, that artwork is fucking badass. I can also divulge that Carter Dention's request for October is a fan commentary over the Beyond. So we'll be watching that sometime.
That'll be killer.
October.
Yeah.
I've never seen this, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it, so I finally picked it up. I think it was $8. Adjust your tracking, the untold story of the VHS collector.
Holy shit.
They almost gave this shit away.
You guys, that's such an awesome one.
Here's some homegrown horrors, boys. Homegrown horrors.
There's a lot of those around here.
Yeah, this one has Moonstalker in it, which is a really, really shitty late 80s slasher movie that I needed to get on Blu-ray disc, baby, because it's that good. But also includes Hanging Heart, which looks like dog shit. And
What's it called?
Hanging Heart.
Everybody's got a hanging heart.
It's the unreleased Bruce Springsteen. Dead Girls. Dead Girls.
Yeah, you gotta have dead girls.
You gotta have Dead Girls.
Dead girls. Dead
shit.
girls in chains.
I think I ordered some stuff to give away. Yeah, I know I did, because here's another copy of Laughing Dead. We'll be having giveaways at some point.
You went all out with the Laughing Dead.
I did. Yeah. And 2 copies of Steel and Lathe, baby.
Ooh.
So we'll be giving some stuff away on the Black Friday show. Those are always crazy popular shows. And also, I may do some sort of giveaway on the Patreon page too. Everybody needs to go and check out the Dead Pit on Patreon page. Lots of songs putting up there. The 100 Scariest Movie Moments song is on there. A lot of people have asked about that. Ooh.
You know what would be a killer show to do? I just thought about this. The 100 shittiest movie moments.
Damn, that'd be hard. We'd be covering all kinds of fucking Uwe Boll movies and shit.
I want to do that series next, man.
100 shittiest movie moments. Garrett wouldn't want to put it on his channel.
No, but we got to do it. Look, we've got to do it.
When I saw this one just now, this is how I felt. Look here. I got it. The last number.
Why did you get that? I'm still like, you know how bad that is.
I know. I just wanted to have the HD copy of it. I had to get it. It's out of print too. They just brought it back for this sale. They found it in Charles Band's warehouse.
Yeah, they tripped over a whole 1,000 of them.
And I think this one was like $24. It has 3 movies in it. It's another movie called Trauma. And the killer is one of 13. And what a fucking name for a movie, man. This is, well, volume 1 of Forgotten Gialli. Listen to the name of this movie. The police are blundering in the dark.
I actually have heard of that movie because of Dirt. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the space-friendly version of Forgotten Gialli.
Dirk is becoming like an encyclopedia of gialli films, man. It's really fucking bizarre. He's becoming a savant. You want to ask him any question about him, he knows like all of them.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of shit to give away, evidently, because I bought 2 copies of Curfew as well.
Are you sure you're going to give them away, or are you just trying to like resell them?
We'll
I don't
see.
think you could resell Curfew. Like, I don't think you could resell a lot of those.
I think a lot of these are like $8.99, and I was like, they'll be cool to give away on. I mean, I probably won't give them all the way on Black Friday, but we'll see. But
everybody's got a hanging heart.
Everybody's got a moist ass.
Especially you. What the fuck? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, so it's been a fun show, guys. Hopefully, like we were saying, we were talking about Tales from the Crypt earlier. We're more of a fan of the show. Like, the comics and everything, I appreciate, but ultimately, like, we're not experts on that sort of thing. But it was cool to go back and talk about it, and it is kind of astonishing that this stuff started way back in the late 40s. And I just can't imagine like how far ahead of the curve they were with that comic book.
No, man, like I was saying, we probably owe like our love for those kind of horror films to one thing, and it's that comic book series, because without that, I don't think we would have a lot of the stuff that we have.
For sure. I mean, you definitely Romero, Night of the Living Dead, Creep Show, The Fog, you know, a lot of stuff like that guaranteed would not exist if it wasn't for the influence of those EC comics. But we appreciate it, guys. Anything else you got coming up, Uncle Bill?
No,
on here? We got some more,
alone. No,
more reviews coming up, and I got some pussy wandering around back there.
We got him some pussy on the line.
Won't get us some pussy, boss. So, yeah, it's been a fun show, though, guys. Hopefully, at some point, we'll get some sort of new Tales from the Crypt. I don't know. It's not looking good, but you never know. Money talks. Blumpkin the like button. That's a good thing to do, yeah. And definitely check out our Patreon page. Baller and Shot Caller Spot is open where you can book. Carter Dench and book this show. He booked it, Uncle Bill. He's like fucking Tony Khan.
Book this show.
He's a baller and shot caller on Patreon. Request a review, request a show topic, commentary, whatever, and get access to thousands of hours of that creamy horror goodness dating all the way back to 2005. Back to the days when Miko Macabre was on YouTube. But wait, she's coming back next week. Miko Macabre, 10 p.m. All the way live with the boys over at
DEADPIT.com. Yeah, don't you forget it.
I'd like to tell people, thumbs up the video, Uncle Bill.
Would you?
Yes. Thumbs it up with violence and fury and just love everything about it.
You hit the heart button, then you hit the ass button, then you hit the go fuck yourself button. Follow that up with the I don't give a shit button.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. Do you know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
We have a literal jukebox full of songs and thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram and help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So DeadPit on Patreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd recommend at least the $10 tier.
You can do 50. The stock market's crashing around us, folks, but